Current students are used to constantly changing input and information sources. They're switching from WhatsApp to Insta to ChatGPT. Does that make a student struggle to concentrate in class? Yes, almost certainly it's a factor. But is that ADHD? In many or most cases, probably not. This is a normal response of their brains to the world. The way they scan and multitask means that sitting down and being taught from a boring textbook or a droning lecturer is not sufficiently interactive or engaging for them. It's more difficult to concentrate on. So, the onus becomes on the educator to meet them halfway. Now, what does that look like? Well, now we have the table set for us to move into the world that we find ourselves in 2025, and specifically the world of AI. As we all know, modern AI is blowing everyone's mind. Every day we see large language models, LLMs, pull things off that no one programmed them to do or even really expected them to be able to do, including all the stuff we're now taking for granted, like summarizing books or making a video from a text prompt or crushing the SATs or LSATs or MCATs. And this is why we find ourselves in an era of discovery more than invention. And I want to point out that a lot of the arguments people have been making about AI not being so good at this or that, these have been changing really rapidly. For example, just a year ago, people were arguing that AI would make silly mistakes about certain things and couldn't add 32-digit numbers with each other and sometimes would get the wrong answers in a word problem. But in a shockingly brief amount of time, these shortcomings have all been mastered. So it's yet to be seen what challenges will remain and for how long. We are in for quite a ride, and it's going to move faster and faster. So what does this mean for our school systems? Our students are now in a world where the entirety of humankind's knowledge has been digested, and any piece of information or any sophisticated analysis is available to you instantly. What does that mean for the next generation? How will the future change, and what should we be doing about it now? So first of all, let's put this in historical context, because in times like these, it's always useful to remember that there have always been times like these. So in 1440, when the printing press was invented in Europe, there were many thinkers who asserted that this was going to ruin the next generation. Why? Because now the answers were just sitting there. They were right there. You don't have to remember much of anything. You just needed to remember where to get the information, and you could pull it right off the shelf. A lot of educators in the 15th and 16th centuries lamented what was going on here. They were certain this was going to make everyone intellectually lazy. What they overlooked was the way that knowledge would continue to explode and the way that society could springboard off the top of this new technology of books. Memorizing things was not, in fact, the important part of education. Instead, it was about storing pointers to where the information could be obtained. 25 years ago, I was having a similar conversation with educators as we transitioned into a world of the internet. And a teacher would ask a question and the kids would just go home and look up the answer. I don't know if you remember those days, but everyone's concern was that it was cheating. So what happened? It's not that students got dumber, it's that educators got smarter. We changed our approach to posing the questions. To obviate copy and paste homework, we just stopped asking simple memorizable facts, and we started doing other things, like getting students to present out loud to the class, or grading each other's work. What new things did they learn? Or getting students to grade the quality of information from different websites, and generally anything that made the questions an active exploration instead of a simple fill in the blank. Well, now we are faced with a new challenge from AI. And the question is this the same kind of challenge we've always had, or is something different this time? And if so, what? And how do we as a society best prepare ourselves and our students for this future? So let's start with a prediction about AI that I heard from Steve Jobs in the 1990s. Jobs was giving a talk where he imagined that computers could reach this point where they would be able to to understand everything that the great philosopher Aristotle knew and would be able to simulate his mind, and you could have a conversation with him. You could ask Aristotle anything, just like Alexander the Great did. And I have to say, when Steve Jobs talked about this in the 90s, it seemed like a full-fledged computer world fantasy. On the AI mountain, we hadn't even gotten our boots strapped on at the bottom yet. And yet here we are now. We're so far up that mountain that now having a simulacrum of Aristotle just seems like part of the background furniture. You can do this with any LLM. You just feed in all the books by someone, and then you have a full, rich conversation. Now, why did Steve Jobs' suggestion of having a personalized tutor matter? Well, it matters because every classroom goes too fast for half the kids and too slow for the other half. So a tailored, individualized education is a dream that many thinkers in the education space have had for a long time. Having an expert who could teach you with passion and patience and in every possible language, that's something that hasn't existed before, and now it's here. But here's the question I want to pose. If students were able to sit and have a conversation with Aristotle, would they?